Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. We're your host, Hurricane H. Today, we're going to have some fun. And I mean it this time. I really mean it because not just fun. We're going to have some comedy in the house and we're going to have some real, jokes going on here. Today's guest proves that sometimes the most powerful healing begins with something as simple as laugh or as a laugh, literally. I mean, laughter is good. Dave Mowry is an author, speaker, comedian, and mental health advocate who has lived with bipolar disorder and severe anxiety throughout his adult life. After losing a successful business, experiencing hospitalization, homelessness, and years of silent suffering, Dave discovered an unexpected path toward healing, stand-up comedy. I wasn't joking, folks. So today, he teaches comedy to people living with mental illness, helping them find their voice, share their stories, and transform pain into hope through humor. His best-selling books and widely read articles have inspired thousands by reminding people that they are never alone and that recovery is very possible. Today, we'll talk about mental health, resilience, breaking stigma, and how laughter can become a powerful part of healing, of your healing journey, I would say. So, Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh no! Listen, this is fun, man, and we're gonna have some good time in the discussion here because your work is phenomenal. Because a lot of people in this world are struggling, whatever the case may be. We all have our own down, falls and downtime and breakdowns and you name it. There's nobody out there that's perfect. I'm not. We deal with challenges on a day-to-day basis, and some of us have health conditions, have all stuff, family, work. I mean, you name it. This world is kind of very difficult, and but your work is definitely making a difference. Your book is, we're going to talk about it. It's going to, it's making a difference in work and books and articles you've done. But now, before we get into all that, you are literally doing great in your career in the business. Can you take us back to the story, like, your, great success and, all of a sudden things happening in your life. And the reason I'm going there is because, I mean, I usually ask this, most of our guests, but your story is important because a lot of people will eventually find themselves facing, life hurdles, big time. And sometimes we don't know how to navigate from there. So let's talk about your story and where it got you, and then how you were able to remove yourself from there and then restart, which is a hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, my wife and I owned 6 restaurants, and we were doing well. We were financially successful. I remember being on vacation, sitting out on a deck at a place having a drink and thinking to myself, we made it. We didn't have to worry about money. We had a happy family, home. Everything was great. And then it was less than a year later, I was driving between restaurants and I was under a lot of stress, and my mind was racing, and my mind just snapped. I mean, I could feel it. It was like an electric shock in my brain. And it was from the stress. I've always had severe anxiety and so stress. And so my stress bucket was almost full, and it just got overflowing, and my mind just snapped, and I had a mental breakdown. I went home, got into bed. It was everything I could do just to hold it together, just to be. It was everything I could do. And so I couldn't function socially. I couldn't work. We lost our businesses. We were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt after that. We had to move out of our house. We couldn't afford it, so we were homeless for 18 months. And that's where began my 14 lost years, my dark days of just being, down from a psychotic break, that my brain was broken, and I never thought I'd heal. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't go places. I couldn't do anything. If I got out of bed, it was everything I could do to make it to the couch and just sit and just be and just breathe. If I did get to go to the mailbox or felt like it or whatever, I couldn't go in the daytime because I was afraid I'd see a neighbor and they'd look in my eyes and see see whatever it was in my eyes that I was broken. So I went to the mailbox at night. Um, yeah, I was not present for my wife and kids. So yeah, it was I was down, I was out, and um, unless somebody's really been there, you can't really understand how deep and dark it is. But then in 2010, my wife saw a little ad in a newspaper for a stand-up comic who taught stand-up comedy to folks with a mental illness, and he was doing a class near us. And at her urging, I signed up and went to the class, and it changed my life. I started looking for the humor in the darkness and the sad times and the dark days. Turns out I could find humor. I had a talent for writing jokes. I had timing and whatnot. And who knew? So from the depths of darkness for 14 years into finding humor and writing jokes and performing on stage. Um, yeah, it's quite the turnaround.
Dave, I have to say, I mean, I'm listening to you here, and as you were describing, how you went up from top success to like a sudden, death, literally, and then, a very, I would say, eerie few years because I can just imagine that time, frame, and then even the status moving, losing everything. I mean, so I want before you go there. I mean, I can get emotional about this because that's really touchy. I mean, you can feel it, right? And folks, you're watching and listening. I mean, it's amazing. We all have dreams of success. I mean, I think everybody, from the minute we are born, we are kind of given this notion that you want to succeed in life. And no matter what your background is, no matter what country you live in, culture, you name it, we all have a similar vision of what that looks like. And everybody's got their own dream. And we get pushed to this. And, a lot of people do, build through that momentum. But there's nobody that's preparing us to what that road looks like. And that's the problem, because that road of success can be very, very hard. We've seen it. I mean, we see a lot of stars. We admire them. We cheer them. We applaud them. But you know what? We don't live their life. We don't know what the huge problems that they may be facing in their own space when they're not in front of the cameras, when not in front of people. And that's actually a reality of things, folks. It doesn't matter whether you're a singer, a player, in some sort of sport, movie stars, they all, I mean, we've seen stories over the years where, these things come up to the surface eventually. And we also have seen some bad outcomes where people actually took their lives and things like that. So it's very difficult. And this notion of success, whether in corporate entrepreneurship, or in general, I mean, does come with a lot of burnout, and I think that's a big deal. Sometimes we chew more than we actually, I guess, chew more. We what is it? We chew more than we can handle. I think that's the expression.
Yeah.
But really, that's the thing. Like we want more, more, and more. Everybody wants more. If you're watching right now or listening, I know you want more from your life, no matter how high you have it or how low. You just want. If you have money, you want more money. If you're a millionaire, you want to be a billionaire. If you have no money, you want to do something and get there. And especially now, in the world that we see, the social media and everything, everybody's pushing that lifestyle, like lavish, successful, luxury, and just it's so everybody's striving for that. But the problem is, do we know what the price to pay? And we don't know until we get stuff. And by the way, personally, I've had my ups and downs in life. I've had so many, going to a good position and you go to zero, like $20 in your account, literally. And it's very difficult. Now, I have not experienced what you just stated, which is the worst of all scenarios. You're going from like 6 businesses, successful. I'm sure you had a great life, and then all of a sudden you can't even afford, your basic accommodation, somewhere to live. And by the way, today, specifically in the States, I see it. We see it. After COVID, we've seen a lot of, the homelessness is skyrocketing around the nation. I don't care whether in New York. I mean, New York City, we have a lot of it now. LA, I know it's big. Philadelphia, I mean, Jersey, we have a lot of that, and I'm sure it's everywhere. And I think in parts of the world that's been there as well. And it's difficult, but some people may just have not had the chance to have money and stuff. But some of us do get to that level, yet we still somehow lose it. In your case, you didn't lose it because you were not good at business. In
Yeah.
your case, because you burned out, your body gave up on you. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the thing people don't get. Your body can give up on you in multiple ways. Your mental breakdown can be one, and that's severe. And we just had a show, with Dr. Heim, which is our psychiatrist, expert. We have this ongoing show monthly, and we talked about this idea that when your mind is sick, we people don't see it, as the same thing, as when you have a broken arm or you have a disease.
Exactly.
So it's outside of the mind, the concept, but people are suffering from within, and you shut down. I mean, literally, you felt it. You went and you got this deep depression. That's I think that's what it was from my just hearing you right now. Again, you can tell us more about the diagnosis and what you did during those years, whether you seek some help, like professional help or therapy and any of that, because we haven't heard that yet. But really, just listening to you, I can just picture you went to this dark side, this dark hole, and it was just that's it. You dove in, and there was like no coming back. It's like somebody who's in this well, and you can't climb up from the well, and that's really tough. I mean, anyone that's watching and listening right now, just imagine anyone can be potentially in that position. We're not immune, folks, and our lives are not guaranteed. Today, you have the best life. One small thing can change your life, or upside down, inside out. So that's something we have to be careful. So thank you for sharing that in today's, at least this initial discussion part. But so Dave, tell us a little bit about that phase, and how were you able? I mean, 14 years is a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
you've endured, and I'm sure also it affects your family, your wife, and
Yeah.
maybe your kids. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we can certainly go into like the light at the end of the tunnel, which was
Sure.
the discovery of comedy.
Yeah. First you mentioned one of the hard things about it was, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't screw up. I didn't, do anything illegal. Through no fault of my own, just through my physical, mental state, it happened. So that made it even harder because I couldn't blame something, I guess. But my wife is a hero of my story. She stayed with me. She stayed with me. I was married before when I was real young, and things were going along well, but I slid into a depression and was there, and my wife divorced me because she said I wasn't fun anymore. So I know. But my wife stayed with me, and she's the hero of my story. But it's, I look at the experiences and the losses. I wasn't present for my kids. And when I think about my kids and not being present for them, and that's where the tears come. I can look at all the other experiences and it goes to the gut and all that. But it's with the kids that the tears come. We were living in a basement of some friend's house. We had the kids slept in an alcove under the stairs on air mattresses. At Christmas time, we didn't have room for a tree, so we decorated a chair and put what presents we could afford on it and under it, and that was our Christmas. We went to kids went to a religious school, and we went to church there, and every year the church gave money to people who were having a hard time, and we contributed to the pot and all that kind of stuff. And one day some people from the church came over and sat and talked, and I couldn't figure out why they were there, and I was just kind of sitting there numb. But then they pulled out this wad of money and said, we always try to help the people that are in the worst spot, and here, this is for you. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, how far we had fallen. But I would hide in the shadows if I was out, if we did go out. Like after a couple of years, we'd go. I remember going to a family function with my wife, her side of the family, and going and trying to interact with people, but just not being able to, just hiding and trying to be invisible. And as soon as I could, I went and escaped to the car and laid the seat down in the car and just prayed to hold it together. Just again, just to be. Um, and then I did, after a while, I did take a class down at Portland State University. I'm at Portland, Oregon, Portland State University. One of the things about my state is I kept trying. I accepted the fact that I had a mental illness and that things were bad, but I didn't resign myself to that's always how it's going to be. And I think that really helped me. So I kept trying. I didn't get stuck. And I remember taking a class at Portland State University, and it was great because I could be invisible. You know, I didn't have to talk to anybody. I, I could just go. And I sat in the corner. I remember the far right back corner because there was nobody beside me on the right. I sat against the wall, and there was nobody that could see me in front of me, and the only person that could see me was the person on my left, and I never looked to the left. Uh, but if it ever came around that I had to talk somehow, I'd have a panic attack, and I'd start to sweat, and the sweat would run down my face. I mean, just pouring out sweat, soaking my collar, soaking my shirt sleeves, soaking me. And I had to get up and I'd go to the bathroom and I'd hide in a stall and just breathe until the class was over. Then I'd sneak back in and get my backpack and go. And on one of those days when I had a panic attack, I was sitting out front on the sidewalk waiting for Heather, my wife Heather, to pick me up, and she was late. And I knew if she didn't show up, I couldn't get up. I mean, I was just done. I was just done. I couldn't get up. I couldn't take the bus. I couldn't get up. She finally got there, and when we were driving home, we drove through Old Town Portland, and there were other people sitting on the sidewalk. And I realized, that was me. Or that would have been me. That was me. And if it wasn't for Heather, that would have been me. I think I'd still be in a single room occupancy apartment in Old Town, just isolating, hiding, going to the soup kitchen to eat. I mean, yeah. So that and not being present for the kids was the hardest.
Did you seek any medical? I mean, any professional help?
Yeah.
Anything? Was that helpful?
Not really. My wife, well, I guess it was in a sense. My wife, we found a therapist, psychiatrist actually, and it was interesting. I went every other week, and I went for years. But I could never, when I did go down there, I could never remember which floor she was on. That's where my mind was at. My mind was dull. I mean, very dull. My muscles in my face were slack. My mind was dull. When I'd have a panic attack, my heart would race and my vision would go blurry. But I'd go and see her, and the medication helps some, but not really. I mean, when I went and saw her, it's interesting. You go see a doctor, and it's like, I tried to be on my best behavior. So she didn't really see the darkness. She really didn't see the reality of the situation. So, I didn't get treated as well as I could have, or the medication as well. And it's my fault. It wasn't hers. It was my fault because one of the most exhausting things from being so depressed and so the deep anxiety was pretending to be okay. Because if I did see people, I'd pretend to be okay. And so when I went to the doctor, the psychiatrist, I'd kind of pretend to be okay. And it was exhausting. And after the appointment, when we had 3 cars, nice cars, and then we had the break, and then we went down to one subcompact car that my wife drove to work, and I took the bus everywhere. If I went anywhere, I took the bus. So I'd get out and I'd go get on the bus, and I'd just again just try to be invisible and just try to hold it together and just to be. So I got help, but and I think it's pretty common. It's hard for us to talk about what's going on. Not that I was embarrassed about it or anything. It's just we don't. It's hard to put into words what's happening and how bad it is. Um, yeah, but the medication that I was on, we didn't have insurance, and it was $600 a month. So um, it contributed to how broke we were. And
Which,
in Portland State, I tell you, at lunchtime, tell you how bad it was. This is something that, anyway, at Portland State, they had rooms where groups would meet at lunchtime, and they'd have talks or have people come, whatever the group was, and they'd order in pizza. So right at the end of lunch, I'd go up and I'd figure out which rooms were having which events and which ones were most likely to have food. And as people were coming out of the room, I'd slip in and I'd go in and I'd eat the leftover pizza. And then one day I realized how far I'd dropped. The only pizza that was left was a half-eaten piece, and I picked it up and I ate it. And I was like, God, I mean, really. So, and that's, like you said, going from having everything to having nothing and being in that spot is,
that's a
um,
that's a
yeah,
huge that's a huge hit. I'm listening to you, and there's a few things. One, you're 100% right, and this is something that came up, in many shows when we talk about psychiatry. Is none of us want people to know what's really going on, and we don't open up easy. I mean, it's one of the best things that psychiatrists do and psychologists, they can get into you and hopefully get it out. But again, you have to be so open to it. And there's a few factors. I mean, this world we live in is brutal. I mean, people will judge you badly, and especially when you're successful and then somehow you lose it all, they just kind of start the blame game, like, and then you by default you will still gonna be thinking, like, what, I'm not going to be able to face anyone, because I think that's really what happens to all of us. It's a shame feeling that people are going to judge you, because even though they don't know the true story behind your situation, any one of us who has been up and down, whether it's decision, whether it's health, whether anything, people just, they don't know. They just see what they see, and they have the perception of what they want to have, and that's all there is. But no one wants to ask, and frankly, most people don't even care. They just want to. It's easier to judge others than to look in, right? And it's the hard part about humans. We prefer to look at the others versus looking within, and that's a big problem that we all have. Hopefully, we're getting more aware of these things, but sadly, it's still out there, and people just like that. And again, I see, like, when you said, the church folks helped you, and you felt like, wow, my God, I was here, and now I'm here. Listen, this is the part where, if you're watching or listening, folks, again, don't get so excited about life. And don't get so excited when you have it, and if it goes away, know that it's gonna come back again, because that's how the cycle is. Don't think it's over, but it's a test, and it could be, call it a test of faith, call it a test of human nature, whatever you want to call it, based on your own I guess belief system. But at the end of the day, it is part of life. I see a lot of people that are so excited, so happy, especially in the younger age, where they just, everything looks beautiful. And listen, I've been through that stage myself. You're going at the top of your career path, and you're like, boom, and then all of a sudden, company closes, you're out of the house today, like you're fired. I mean, you're not fired, but the whole company is terminated because we have to shut down. I mean, that's a blow. And listen, it happened to me a couple of times in my career. And you know what? You go home and you're like, oh shit, now where? And sometimes, and here's the thing, the more you're qualified, you're overqualified. No one wants to hire you. You can ask for a small job, and no one's gonna want to give it to you. And then or you want to switch careers, but you have no experience. No one's gonna give it to you. Just this is just for our audiences.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's just an
100%.
example. And or you have a lot of money now. You have to downgrade your lifestyle. I mean, even let's say you don't even go to the extreme where you lost everything, but you have something left. But it's still difficult because here's the thing: the world is funny because when you have it all, it's usually cheaper. The world looks cheap, but when you don't have it all, everything is expensive. You talked about healthcare. Imagine you got to get a medication that you can't afford. That's a whole problem in itself.
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that's a problem. But I want to. There's something great. And by the way, folks, I know I promise we're gonna have some fun today. And it sounds like we're just doing doom and gloom here. But here's the thing. This is true life, folks. And I'm a big firm believer that I'm always learning. And I never take things for granted in my life because I know I've seen ups and downs. I've seen people, with money and with no money and switching, roles. It's like that movie Trading Places, right? I mean, that was a great movie. It's a perfect example of like how life can treat you and stuff. So don't get, too cocky about your life. That's one. And just take it from me. You don't have to, but it's real life experience and truth. But one thing you said that is so powerful, your wife was your hero because that's the thing. She was the right person. She was with you on the up and on the down. And that's something you cannot, get a lot of. Unfortunately, sometimes that's not the
Right.
case. And you've had that story in the previous life, and yet, you had the right person with you. And that's really true partnership. That's in till death do us part. Now that's really a true promise delivered. And somehow, she was there with you. She endured. You said it yourself. Your kids, you were not there for them because, as I'm a father, and it's very difficult when you cannot afford things for your kids, or especially if they were raised at a certain pace, and all of a sudden everything goes,
Yep.
and now they have to
Yep.
adjust. And kids are not like you and me when you're at a certain age. They just expect the same thing to happen. Sometimes it doesn't even compute that, what the hell happened here? Like, they still kind of in denial because, and there's the peer pressure from their own environment. So now it's like you have to remove yourself from that society. Whatever you were, you try to run away, move to a different town, move somewhere, whatever the case may be. It can be very devastating. I love the idea that you said, I don't love it, but it's really the concept that I love that, with how we behave sometimes as humans. You just didn't want to deal with people. You just kind of shut down and became, to your point, almost transparent to the world. You try to make yourself invisible, but you couldn't. Obviously, you're still there. People would still interact with you, and it became very difficult. But you prevailed, and that's what matters here, folks. No matter how dark you are in a place so dark, you can still get out of it if you don't give up. And you didn't give up.
Yeah.
And here's
Yeah.
the good: your wife didn't give up because she discovered this for you, which means that she was always looking out for you, and that's a great
Yeah.
thing. So again, whoever I think Heather, right? That's her name.
Yeah. Heather.
Yeah. Well, Heather, you are an awesome lady, and we want a lot of Heathers out there, in the world, to make a world difference and different, and that's really important, folks. So yes, if you find the right match, the right mate for life, that's what it's meant to be there for you in good and bad, sickness, health, you name it, they're there. And so Heather delivered, and you know what? She gave you that new switch. Okay. And by the way, I can say this. I mean, in my life, my wife's been there 100% with me. The job is not there. We got this. We got to make it happen. We work together as a team, and and that's how it works. It's not like, okay, I love you because you have the money. I love you because you have this. I don't like you because there's no more. It's not fun anymore, as you said. Life is not fun. Life is just ups and downs and just loops and hoops, and you got to just keep going. It's not a linear lane, it's not a straight line. There's a lot of deviating, and there's a lot of hills upside down. You go up the hill, it's hard. You go down the hill very quick, and so on and so forth. So again, this is just the way it is, folks. And so, by the way, some of us, watching and listening right now, some of you guys, you might think like, well, we know this story. That's good. There's nothing wrong with we know something. That's great. And if we don't, sometimes it's important to know. But if we already know, this is a reminder for all of us that sometimes take life for granted. Sometimes we get forgetful. It gets so beautiful in our
Yeah.
life that
Yeah.
you don't think
Yeah.
it's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me. I mean, Dave, did that happen to you at a point like when you were having the great time? Did you ever think that it would be you at that point? Like that
Oh
new.
no, and I'd look and I'd see people, and I'd yeah, I never thought. I mean, then that's not me. I'm not there, and I'm not going to be there. And I'm on the upward trend, and it's always what it's going to be. I think one thing important you said, when things happen, whether it's a job loss or a divorce or a health problem or whatever, it's easy to get stuck. It's easy to get into our heads and just to get stuck. And one of the most important things that helped me was I didn't get stuck. I kept trying. And just to know, like you said, you do come out the other side. Um, you can accept your fate at the present time. I call it acceptance without resignation, but you don't resign yourself to this is how it's always going to be. And you do come out the other side. I mean, and you do find something. I mean, who knew? Nowhere in a million years would I or anybody think, stand-up comedy was going to change my life, or that I was going to be able to get up. I mean, here I am, barely able to get out of bed, and years later, I'm up on stage telling jokes in front of 300 people, and not nervous, not. I mean, just up there, just having a good time, telling jokes. And I do have a joke for you.
And hit me.
All right. I don't know whether to start with a mental health joke. I think I'll start with a mental health joke. Um, Maybe I won't. Where you're from New Jersey originally, right?
Jersey, yes.
Yeah, this is a dad joke. So, do you know what the difference is between a New Jersey squirrel and an Oregon squirrel?
No idea.
The accent. I know that's silly or what.
Oh, that's definitely a dad joke. My kids will tell me, "Oh, that's such a dad joke." This is
Yeah,
exactly that one. That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
listen,
So, but when I was in the darkest time, I mean, I contemplated suicide. I mean, everybody with mental illness, and I finally got diagnosed with bipolar disorder with the highs and the lows, and everybody with bipolar disorder has suicide ideation at some point in time. And one of the darkest times I went, I sat at a picnic table at a park and had a gun, and I didn't do it for whatever reason. I just didn't do it. But one of the most that leads into one of the probably the favorite joke of the audience for when I do my comedy is my suicide joke. So trigger warning: it's a joke about suicide, but it's a gentle suicide joke, and it's kind of I kind of wrote it for my wife. So when things were really bad, one day I decided to end it all. So I went up into the bathroom and I took a bunch of pills. Afterwards, I called my wife for help. She said there are more pills under the sink.
I guess you're helping her out.
Yeah, she was very helpful. Yeah, she was very helpful. More pills under the sink. So yeah,
Listen, she's supporting the idea. She's supporting
yeah,
you somehow.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Yeah, she
That's
was
a good
very
wife.
supportive. So anyway, that's one of the jokes. It's a mental health joke, and one of the reasons I don't get nervous on stage or anything is because I like my jokes. I think that's. Uh, um, I only tell the jokes that I really like, and so I'm not like this one's okay. I'll tell this one. I don't do that. I only tell the ones that I really like, the ones I think are laugh out loud funny, and so I don't get nervous. I just have a good time.
Well, Dave, thank you, for sharing that. And by the way, comedy is fun. Comedy can be very, how can I say it? It can be relaxing for people. Like, listen, I go to comedy shows. I left my ass off, for a couple of hours or an hour, half hour, depends whatever the shows are. And you know what? You come out there, your endorphins are kicking. You're like so happy. You got a good dopamine hit. I mean, it changes. I know. Listen, I'm one of those guys that sit in the front row. and
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
hit
yeah,
on
yeah,
all the time. I'm like the
yeah,
guy that you're gonna call on and you're gonna get
yeah,
jokes about me.
yeah,
I go with the flow. I have fun with them and I enjoy it. And you know what? It's cool. I mean, I've been called up on the stage, and they made fun of me there. But you know what? That's actually seriously. It's listen. I do a lot of cruising around the world with my wife. We love cruises,
yeah,
and in cruises, there's comedy is part of it, right? So there's
yeah,
always comedy. 7 days, there's different, a couple of at least comedians, on the shows,
yeah.
and we're always front row, and we get to participate. We can have fun, and you know what? It changes your feeling. You come out of there so
Oh
happy,
yeah.
and you just kind of revitalize yourself, and it's amazing, what it does. But Dave, I have one question before we get into that now the comedy because we
Okay.
started the comedy part.
Yeah.
But just this is important for the people that are watching and listening. You know, your environment, the people that were surrounding you where you had the up, were they there for you when you went on the downside, other than
No,
your wife?
people disappeared from my life. Um, they just
So that's a
disappeared from my
lesson.
life. Yeah,
And that's the lesson for these people watching and listening, folks. If you're watching and listening,
yeah,
be not everybody is going to stand with you when it's tough, but a lot of people will stand with you when it's easy, because it's easy to be
right.
there when they don't have to contribute, but when they have to do something for you. Let me tell you something, folks. True experience in my own personal life. I only have a few people in life that been there for me, inside, outside, upside down. Doesn't matter. They're there. You call up, they're always there. Okay, but that's a very few, and I'm just lucky, to have those people. But not everybody does, and this is honest proof right here in front of you guys. Dave has seen it all, but then everybody just vanished. It's like they didn't exist, and that's a problem. And forgive me for asking this question, but that is a powerful one for people because don't get excited about your entourage. And in difficulty, you will know who is really a true friend and who is not. Who's going to stand by you? Who's going to try to play the victim and play this and the other and just disappear from your life because it's easier to get out of your life when there's nothing to catch on from you. And that's the thing. It's life should be about give and take, and we're there for you whether you're on up or down. That's how it's supposed to be, but that's not how everybody is. So thank you for sharing that because and I don't want to go back to the gloom stuff, but
Yeah,
that was an important piece. And guess what? You prevailed, you succeeded, you came back, you're having fun, and not only that. By the way, you said something about you had entertained the idea of suicide. You know how many times I've had shows, where I had, my guests who have stated that. And guess what happened to these folks? They're all successful people now. They're all making a difference in this world. And so you're meant to do better in this world than you did. Now you're actually changing people's lives. You're teaching people to actually get, out of their heads through humor. You wrote the book, and we're going to talk about it shortly. To help people also and guide them through this. And how humor can actually really be a solution. That can help you physically and mentally. So that's an important thing. So let's talk about it. So you went to the school, you learned comedy, or you just kind of got to test the idea because you said it before, you were being called upon to actually to talk in college and you would be like sweating your butt off.
oh
But now
yeah.
you go into comedy, you're standing in front of people. That's fear. Fear, what do you call stage fear is big. How did you convert? Was that actually what the course was to actually get you to be a comedian, or just to get in front of people?
Yeah, it was not to get to be a comedian, and I didn't expect to be performing when I went to the class. It was I didn't know what to expect really, but the class was about finding humor in our darkness and our challenges. A lot of comics have a lot of challenges, and that's a source for their humor. And so we looked for humor in our challenges, and I had a lot of challenges, so I had a lot of material for jokes, like my suicide joke. I mean, yeah, and almost all my jokes are real. The first part is real. I mean, it's from lived experience. It's from real experience, and then the punchline, of course, is a fun part. But the class, it was how to find humor in the darkness, and then how to write jokes. And it's an art, so it was how to write jokes, and that was a lot of it. And I found myself, I wrote jokes for myself. I had a talent for it, and then I was writing jokes for other people in the class, and just having a great time. I mean, to be 14 years in of hiding and not being able to talk about my mental illness to getting in a group of people, other people that have mental health challenges, where we're all looking for humor in our experiences. It was just an amazing relief to be able to talk about the mental health challenges and then start to find the humor in it. And then we write jokes. And then at the end of the class, we did have a small performance, you know. Um, but after the class was over, the people in the class wanted to keep going. And so they asked me to lead the group. And then from there, I went to teaching other classes. Um, and so that's how the me teaching stand-up comedy to folks with mental illness evolved. Um,
Amazing.
yeah,
So so
yeah,
so so,
and
so
the
you learn.
stories of the other people, were amazing as well. So it was really a healing process. And I tell people, just looking for humor in the darkness is makes a big difference. Yeah, I used to have panic attacks. I'd hear a song on the radio, and it would take me back to that trauma, and I'd relive the trauma, and I'd have a panic attack, and it was awful. And then when I took the stand-up comedy class, when I heard that song, and had those, it took me back to that place. I'd say, where could I find the humor in that? And I wouldn't have the panic attack, and I wouldn't relive the trauma. And it was so healing. It was really healing. So just the act of looking for humor in our darkness, I think, changes everything. And that's a message I tried to share with people.
Thank you. Well, so question now: when you went to this course, was it for people who had experienced, mental illness, or
Yeah.
just open public? So it's
No,
specific for
just
people.
specifically for people with mental illness.
Okay, well that's awesome. So there is something that is actually available to people. I say I didn't know that. That's an awesome point. So for what people watching and listening, when we're in the dark side, maybe there is a room for us to actually kind of get a little
Oh
bit of
yeah,
comedy and
oh
humor
yeah,
in this place. But again, I don't know if it's available, in all states. I
yeah.
mean,
And
certainly it's.
it doesn't. You don't have to take a class specifically for people with mental illness. You can take a class, but everybody's got challenges and struggles. And if you're in the class and you can talk about yours, and then look for the humor and find humor in it, it's incredibly healing. Incredibly healing.
Yeah, listen, for just someone who's enjoying comedy, and I think everybody can relate to that. I mean, listen, we watch a comedy, like we were just watching what's his name, Kevin Hart movie that just came out
Oh yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
Netflix. We cracked up. I mean, it's a little,
It's great.
there's a little bit of kind of extreme with some of the X-rated stuff, whatever you want to call it. But it just laughter from beginning to the end. You know what? And you finish from there, you're just a happier camper. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah,
makes a big difference.
yeah. You get the endorphins and you relax. A good belly laugh is,
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's great.
laughter is a true medicine. We always say
It
that, and you
is.
know what? So now you did that. You became you started teaching others and kind of exchanging, learning, and making it happen. And so that means you've contributed to other people healing, which is an awesome thing.
Yeah.
So here you are in the darkest part of your life. Now all of a sudden you're changed your life and changing other people. That's amazing. I mean, just folks. I mean, if you're watching and listening right now, this is what it's all about. I mean, we learn something in life, we can either just leave it within, or if it's a positive thing, let's share with the world, and hopefully we can, because here's the thing. This is something I've learned a long time ago. Many times in my life, I didn't have anyone to assist. And so when I learned certain things, now if someone comes to me in that same aspect, I will freely give that information, because I wish I had someone to do that for me at the time when I needed that help. And so that's just something I've learned over the years, to give back, when you can. And it's important that we should, all do that somehow. I mean, what I'm doing in the shows is about the same idea, is that
Mhm. Yeah.
knowledge is available. I'm limited, in my knowledge, but certainly with all the guests that we get, I mean, our knowledge is extremely
Oh yeah.
infinite. We can just keep, bringing some more and more information to the world that can help people transit from any level of life. Because let's be real, folks. We've had some, different shows from different topics. but it's all about the human factor, and the human factor is that we are still not perfect, and we're still going to be dealing with the environment and all the conditioning that comes with it, and that can be devastating to all of us. And so, quick question, Dave, before I get into the book, you've done this work. What would you tell people about balance, work, and personal life balance? Because I think one of the burnouts that you've had, was the cause of that. Because I'm pretty sure when you're running 6 restaurants,
Yeah,
restaurants is one of the toughest businesses out there, folks. If you
yeah,
don't know that,
yeah,
it's early and too much stuff. There's so much going on.
yeah.
The regulatory stuff is difficult. So running that kind of business can burn you out in any type of business, especially if you're actually hands on. That's a and some people like sometimes we hear the business shows and stuff about like success and you got to be there, no sleep, no stuff. There's a level of truth to that, but if you don't take your care of yourself, you don't get enough sleep, you don't eat right, you don't take a break, and you constantly stressing out. Stress can just hurt you physically and mentally. A lot of mental stuff comes from stress. Your cortisol levels are high, your hormones are disrupted, everything else is. And by the way, male or female is the same here, so this is a fact. So we all get bombarded with this stuff, and sometimes again, to your point, your cells are gonna, your autoimmune system can go wrong, or your mental state is going to go wrong. One way or the other is destructive to our health. What is your advice to the folks that are watching or listening about catching that mental? If you were to do this again over, where would you have done it different, or
I
how would you
think,
have?
yeah, I think, you know, I thought more is better, you know. And so, I mean, instead of 6 restaurants, I could have stopped at 4. I could have stopped at 3. We would have had enough money. But I didn't. I kept going. And it was a 24/7 type thing. And I didn't get enough sleep. I think you mentioned sleep. Sleep is so important. Work-life balance. Prioritize getting your sleep. If things look different, your brain works better. You can handle more stress. Um, but there's got to be balance, and family life, or friends. There's got to be balance. And if you can work out that 45 minutes or an hour, if you can work out and yet exercise, that clears your head and makes a huge difference. And none of these things necessarily take. I mean, you might think I don't have time for that, but you do have time for that. And if you don't take your time for that, you are going to go into burnout, and you're going to lose a lot of time on the other end of it. So yeah, work-life balance is huge. It's huge. Um, and if you don't do it, you're going to burn out and go down the other side, and maybe not fall down like I did, but you know, um, yeah,
Well, Dave, here's the thing. You said you could have stopped at 3 or 2, and you still would have been good financially. And I think that's a problem. We want more and more and more. But here's the thing: could you afford rather to lose your health over money? Because here's the thing: money does go away, and if your health shuts down, it's only a matter of time. A year or 2 years, and that money's going to be gone. If you can't replenish it, you cannot make it happen. Now, someone can say, Hurricane, what do you know about money? You can have investments and stuff that can work for you. Well, there's a percentage of that can happen, but it depends on the source of money. In your case, it was a physical, load of 6 restaurants that you had to manage. To your point, that's early rise and ending late, and you got to inventory, staffing, this, that, the other. Department of Health, all the stuff that comes with a restaurant. My friends, they have restaurants and supermarkets. I can tell you, they're really, they have a good life, but they tell you it's a tough business to be in. So if you're in that business, and by the way, many businesses are equal to that. And again, the bottom line is how much money is enough, for you to actually enjoy.
mm,
And here's the thing:
yeah,
are you sacrificing time with your family and your loved ones? How
yeah,
much time do you have in this world? Do you guarantee that you're going to enjoy it? Sometimes many of us, don't think of that until it's maybe too late, and sometimes you can't bring time back, like even with your parents, not your spouse, your kids, but sometimes even your parents, You don't get to spend much time with them, or at least visit and stuff like that because you don't have time for them, right? That's a problem. Your loved ones, your friends, you can't even hang out with your friends because the good ones that actually will stick
Hmm.
around. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know what I mean. We all get caught up. So thank you
yeah,
for giving that advice because I think that's really to the bank, folks. Yes,
yeah,
nothing against success and making more, but know your limits, know how you can do it. If you can't do it where you don't have to be present and like what we call passive income, that's a whole different story. But if you're
and
actually hands on, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, and pace yourself. I didn't pace myself. I grew fast. Um,
Ooh.
and I was just in that mode where I could do it, was able to, and so I grew fast. And so pace yourself. You don't have to get there. You don't have to get there really quickly. I mean, the journey is a lot of the joy and the fun and whatnot. And so pace yourself on that journey, and you'll enjoy it a lot more. And then when you get to a certain point where you decide, you've had enough, or you want to sell, or you want to do something else, then you're in a good spot mentally. Um, yeah. So pace yourself too.
Well, so Dave, I know we've covered a lot of grounds, and I do want to have a little bit more comedy with you. But now let's talk about the book, because the
Okay.
book is really it's just released already. I mean, it's out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's called Healing with Humor: Mental Illness to Mental Health. One laugh, one joke, one inspiring story at a time. And it's about people who took the stand-up comedy class that I taught and the transformation that happened in their lives. And so, teaching the class, people come in at different points, different places in their lives. Some at their lowest point, some a little higher, but everybody that's taken the class, the comedy has transformed them in some way. And so, in the book, we tell the stories of the folks, and we include jokes that they've written, their jokes, and their humor. And reading it, we see ourselves, in these people. We see ourselves, and we see the struggles, and we're there, we've been there. And then we see them finding the humor and telling the jokes, and we get to laugh with them. Um, and it's inspiring. And um, Molly's example. Molly was a doctor, and all she ever wanted to do was be a doctor. She wanted to be a doctor in her hometown, small hometown, and so she went to med school and she went through residency and she got her MD. And then she had a breakdown to her bipolar disorder and had to quit. She couldn't do it. And so she'd lost everything that meant everything to her. And her mom brought her to the comedy class, and she said, "Molly's suicidal. She's lost. We tried everything. You know, here's Molly." And so I worked with Molly, and Molly started looking for humor in her darkness and her loss and her illness and stuff, and writing jokes. And she was good at it, and she was funny on stage. And now Molly is a comic here in town. She performs 2, 3 times a week. And instead of seeing herself as a failed doctor, she sees herself as a comic, and that's her identity now. So Molly is chapter 6 in the book, and we tell Molly's story, we talk about it, and then we talk about the transformation and the comedy. And she shares her jokes in the book. And in the audio book, which is going to be out next week, we're able to splice in live, them telling their jokes live on stage. So you can hear them live on stage and the audience reaction. And the audiobook is brilliant. It's really good. So that's Healing with Humor. And it doesn't, it's about, these folks have mental illness, but it doesn't have to be about mental illness. It can be about any trauma, any loss. And you read the stories of these people, and like Molly said, one of her jokes is, little did she know going through medical school that the MD was going to stand for manic depressive.
I'm sure she had jokes about her doctor life.
Oh
She's
yeah,
doing some of
oh yeah,
that. There's
oh
quite a
yes,
bit there.
oh
You
yeah.
know, that, Dave, thank you for breaking it down for us. And it's amazing because, to your point, I was going to ask the question: is this only for people who may have mental health, problems? But no, this is for everyone. Because I get to your point. I
Yeah,
mean, by the way, I think there's a fact here that I want to just state. And it's I've actually kind of vetted out with my good friend Dr. Heim, who's the psychiatrist expert, that we all have some sort of level of
yeah,
mental illness. There's no one that is cleanly pure that they can
yeah,
claim that they got no problems. We all have problems, folks. We just deal with things differently. We have different levels. Some of us may be at level 1, some of us can be at 10, maybe some at 100, some at 1,000. Whatever that spectrum, we don't have a spectrum, or maybe there is one. I'm just not aware of. But the fact is, we're somewhere in there, but we're not, purely zero mental level. If you live, you have some of it. If you experience life, you're going to have some of the trauma level from this world. And therefore, anything that can help us kind of recover in a way, or even just conquer some of these problems that we have and defeat them, is important to us. And sometimes we might not need to go to therapy and stuff like that, but something like this can just be the ideal medication. I mean, you're talking about pills like in a
yeah,
joke.
yeah,
Here's
yeah,
more for you. Well, you know what, we'd like more jokes to actually heal us a little bit from the illnesses of or the I would
yeah,
say the illnesses of this world that all impacted us. And by the way, now I'm assuming these are it's all in English and stuff, so I think with
yes.
AI now you might even have a chance to do it with different languages. That could be fun.
I've thought about that, but I don't know how the jokes would translate in a different language. So it's, you
I
know,
think, I mean, it will be corny. That we just find just as much fun.
yeah, yeah,
There
yeah,
we just, but some things, but I get the concept can also be duplicated. So, for
yeah,
folks that may not, be in a part of the world that speaks a different language, and somehow you listen to this in a dubbing, maybe it's time for you to consider a similar approach to your world, and that can be
yeah,
different. So that's actually for people that are watching overseas. But really, the concept is just amazing because, again, and this is something you mentioned Molly as an example, who was a doctor, and this is something again to add to that value. You were a successful entrepreneur. Molly is a successful doctor, yet mental health does not discriminate, folks, who you are. You can be anyone at any age, any level of society. It can hit you. And when it does, how do you deal with it, and so on and so forth. And that's really the difference. So your work is actually, commendable, phenomenal, and fantastic to have around. And, I think this book can make a difference in people's lives, especially like you said, it's audio. So for people who don't want to read, I mean,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
certainly get the audio
Get the
version and
audiobook.
listen to
Yeah,
while you're driving on traffic, whatever. You
it's
can
great.
just have
Yeah,
crack up some jokes.
yeah.
Why not?
And you'll see yourself, you see yourself in the book, and then you hear the jokes and the laughter and all that, and it's cool. One thing you said, you were talking about work-life balance, and I've got a joke for um,
Hit me.
when on my medication, one of the side effects was weight gain. And true to form, taking the medication, I gained 20 pounds. So I decided to do something about it. And I joined a fitness club. And I went down, I started doing the treadmill. And it didn't take me long to realize the treadmill was a perfect exercise for somebody with a mental illness because you do the same thing over and over and over again, and you never get anywhere. And then one day I was working out, and the guy next to me looked over and he said, "You're not going very fast." I said, "That's okay. My mind's racing."
I guess to each his own, right? I mean, he's seeing the fitness in a way, and that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got another
listen,
joke too. It's a fun joke. Yeah, it's a bipolar joke. With the bipolar, it's hard to tell all the ups and downs. I didn't know which me was going to wake up in the morning, but I finally figured out how to tell if I was depressed or if I was manic. Because when I was depressed, I spent all day trying to get out of bed, and when I was manic, I spent all day trying to get my wife into bed.
there you go. So now folks, which case are we? Depending on what our
Yeah, exactly.
dilemma is, do we get up and try to get out of bed all day, or do we want to get somebody in the bed? Hey,
That's
listen,
right.
no judgment here, but yeah, Dave, that was funny. Um, wow. Well, so how can people get? I mean, it's Amazon, right? So any
Yeah, the
place.
book's on Amazon. The book's, and I've got another book, OMG, That's Me, which is the first book. and it's me writing about the experiences, what it's truly like to live with mental illness. It's been a bestseller on Amazon in the mental health category for years and years and years. And if anybody wants to know, if if anybody wants to know they're not alone with a mental health challenge, that OMG, that's me is the book, because they'll realize they're not alone. And if somebody wants to know what it's really like to live with a mental illness, that's the book, and so that's available on Amazon too. So those two are the two books. But to get a hold of me or to find out more, it's DaveMowry.com, DaveMowry.com. So that's pretty easy. And there's links to the books. There's some videos of the comedy shows, so you can enjoy some comedy. You can see Molly perform. And so it's kind of fun. So DaveMowry.com.
Do you have a YouTube channel for your comedy
I'm on
hours?
YouTube. I do. You can do Dave Mowry YouTube, and a bunch of stuff comes up. I haven't curated it.
Nice. So we can laugh.
But I'm on, and you can go on YouTube and you can see some other podcasts. So yeah, I'm on YouTube. I did
Do you do it?
what was it, Claude? I did I asked, who is Dave Mowry, author, just for the fun of it. And it came back and told all about me. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm on AI. One other thing I wanted to mention was I taught stand-up comedy
Yes.
class to people in the Oregon State Hospital who were there, committed crimes. So we're there, except for insanity. So I can say that I taught stand-up comedy to the criminally insane.
I'm sorry. No, I was trying to figure out, is that a joke?
Yeah, I know.
But it's real. It's real.
It's just,
It's real.
it's true, and it's kind of just a fun thing. So,
Well, but that's important. So thank you for saying that, because again, as you said, criminally insane. There's a problem. There's always a problem. I mean, even the folks that are doing bad things, when you look at it, I mean, they just needed help. Somehow they couldn't get the help, and it was too late. It's just another way of dealing with mentalness, and sometimes the way it goes is the wrong way, and some people take it on themselves, some people take it on others. And when you hear it like as simple as bullying is not really, the fact of bullying is one thing, but it's really a reflection of those people that are conducting the bullying, because somehow they need some attention or some problem in their life that caused for them that reaction. So that's all there is. So your work can make a difference in these people. And you know what? Sometimes people go through the system and they come out of the system, and life can be a better life for them, and they can change their life tremendously. And I've seen those examples.
Yeah, these folks are, I mean, they're just regular folks. And, there's a stigma about people with mental illness. And people with mental illness are just regular people. We have our lives. I think people with a mental illness who have been through the hard times and come out the other side and are living a life, they're some of the bravest, strongest people. And so, if you live with a mental health challenge, and you're brave, you're strong, and you're worthy, and it's not a moral flaw. It's not a personality flaw. It's we're just regular folks. We're just regular folks.
Thank you, Dave. That's a very awesome way to summarize humanity. We're all human. We are somehow weak to a degree as a species. We do have flaws, and you know what? Mental is part of it. Just like we can catch a cold. I mean, literally, we can actually have a mental condition. Yeah. Sometimes we don't even know about it. I think we get excited, we get depressed, we have anxiety. These are all mental levels. It's just what level it is. And so you're right. Oh my God, it's me. I think we all can relate to that. Listen, I have no shame to say that I have my own share of ups and downs in my life, and I kind of push, I kind of deal with it. I kind of believe that I can handle it. Sometimes I use different tactics. That I personally, whether it's watching a movie or going out in nature or stuff, I use all the techniques. And to be honest with you, since I started this work, 7 years, almost 8 years now, with all the shows, with all the experts, with all the information I've received, I use almost every single thing I've learned in my day-to-day life, whether through with people, with myself, in terms of how I operate. And it's changed my life on how I see prospectively
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
around me
I
and how
bet.
I deal with problems. So it does help folks, to listen to some stuff, to get some guidance. And yes, another thing, if you're stuck, you cannot figure it on your own, there's always help, folks. Don't
Yeah.
wait. Don't think that you got this.
Yeah.
You use a system, a comedy system here can work, but if not, you need more. There's psychologists,
Yeah.
there's psychiatrists, folks. Don't give up on yourselves, and just admit it. If you have a cold, like doctor said, Dr. Ham said, if you have a physical, you do seek surgery, you seek you
Yeah.
get something
Yeah.
fixed. Well, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. If you feel that you're not up there solid, something's going on. Guess what? Seek the help. Get the help you need. That's not.
Yeah.
There's no shame in the game. So again,
Exactly.
that's just my 2 cents. Well,
Yeah.
Dave, so so, so
100%. Yeah.
I want to just thank you. I know we've exceeded our hour, but I want to thank you for really, being on today, and your input today is so valuable. Well, quickly, do you do any comedy tours? Are you traveling around the nation,
Not
or just
anymore. I've, um, I mean, I do it around Oregon, Southwest Washington. I've done some clubs in New York, some in LA, and that was great. But I just do local stuff now, and it fits. I mean, I don't have a private plane to fly from LA to San Francisco to Phoenix to, so it's. Um, anyway, I did do a driving tour, which was kind of fun. But no, I don't. But you can see me doing my performance on at the website davemowry.com. Um, and so you can see the other people, and you can appreciate it. You can laugh with us. That's what I say. Laugh with us. And what were you saying about getting down? Don't get stuck. The smallest thing, if you're down and it's dark, just for me, going downstairs and sitting on a different place instead of on this couch, sitting on this couch. One of the things that really helped me, just for folks, is watching the cooking channel. It was relaxing. I wasn't going to cook the recipes, but I was learning something, so I was doing something without doing anything, and I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. And I learned what spices went with what foods. But it was just so calming, so relaxing, so helpful. So watching the cooking channel was something that really helped me get out of my head. So I wasn't just holding myself together, just trying to hold on to BB. I was out of my head. And the other thing that I'll throw out there is one of the things to get ourselves out of our heads, to do something nice for somebody. Just the tiniest thing, do something, not looking for anything to come back, but just look to do something nice for somebody. Gets us out of our head and helps us heal.
Dave, I was going to ask you, like, what are your, some words of wisdom you want to leave our audiences with? You
There you
just
go.
did that already.
Yeah, don't get
You beat
stuck.
me to. I think you were prepared for that question. Well, Dave, Dave, thank you so much for really, being with us. It's a pleasure, and I've, listen, I admire this. I learned from you, on how to deal with certain things, and you just added another level. I mean, I knew comedy was great, for me, but you took it to a whole different level, because it does have a therapeutic, I would say, aspect of things, and an effect that can actually really have a big difference in our mental state and health. So thank you for doing the work you do, and certainly for sharing that with us, and for the books that you put out there for people to actually enjoy, learn from, and really transform their life to from worse to better. So thank you for that. And so that's it, folks. This is the end of our show. Hope you had a great time with Dave. We did have some jokes, some fun, although we did some gloom and doom, but at the end of the day, it's a real life story of things that happened, that can happen to anyone out there. And so, or even if maybe not you watching and listening right now, but if you think someone may be struggling, folks, it is our job to reach out and help people. Don't judge, don't push people away. Try to guide them, try to help them. Some people will welcome that, some people may not, but at least you've tried. Nothing wrong with that, folks. So that's it, folks. I'm American H. We'll be talking to you, new day, new show on topic. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.